Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. Leo was the kind of boy everyone ignored. He sat at the back of every class, his thin frame hunched behind thick glasses, never raising his hand, never speaking unless called on. His uniform was always a little wrinkled, his shoes never the newest model, and his lunch was always the same: 2 half sandwiches and a bottle of water. At Orion Space Academy, where most students wore smart jackets and flew in on family-owned hovercars, Leo walked. Alone. Nobody talked to him, unless it was to laugh. "Hey, worm brain," said Jax, the strongest boy in class, as Leo passed by the lockers. "Forgot your invisibility cloak today?" The others laughed. Leo didn't answer. He never did. He just kept walking. Behind the school, past the fuel tanks and old cargo crates, there was a small empty zone. No cameras, no teachers, no bullies, only silence. That was where Leo spent his lunch breaks, on that day, the day everything changed. The wind was colder, the sky was cloudy, it smelled like rain. Leo sat on an old crate, opened his sandwich and sighed. Then he heard it, a soft, high-pitched whimper, like a cry. He stood and looked around. The sound came from behind, a pile of metal panels. Carefully, he stepped closer. There, half buried under wires and a broken antenna, was something strange. Small, scaled, shivering. Its eyes glowed dim blue, and 2 tiny horns curled from its head. Wings, torn and folded, trembled weakly. Leo blinked. "A dragon?" he whispered. The creature looked up at him with huge, tired eyes. It didn't growl, it didn't run, it just looked lost. Leo dropped to his knees. "It's okay," he said gently. "I won't hurt you." He broke off a piece of his sandwich and held it out. The dragon sniffed it. Then, slowly, it ate. Its body was warm and shaking, its tail curled tightly around itself. Leo reached into his backpack and pulled out a blanket he sometimes used when the benches were too cold. He wrapped the little creature carefully and placed it inside a box beside him. "I'll call you Zari," he said with a small smile. For the rest of lunch, he sat there, feeding it, watching it sleep, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Needed. That evening, he came back with a small bowl of warm milk and leftover meat. Zari perked up, licked his hand, and curled around his leg. Leo laughed quietly. "Guess you're staying." He didn't know what Zari was. Not yet, but he knew one thing: he wasn't alone anymore. The next day, everything went wrong, and right. It started when Leo was halfway through math class. His desk shook, the lights flickered. A sound, low and deep, rolled through the building. Everyone looked up. Out the window, the sky darkened. Clouds split open as a ship bigger than the school itself hovered above them. Silver, black, covered in glowing blue, symbols. More ships followed. Dozens, hundreds, thousands. By the time the news broadcast kicked in, 20,000 alien vessels filled Earth's orbit. Panic exploded. Alarms rang. Students screamed. And then, one of the ships landed outside the B school. Its ramp opened. A tall, armored figure stepped out. He carried a staff. Behind him, dragons. Real ones, wings shining with crystal light. The soldier's voice boomed across the playground. "We seek the one who fed the air of flame, the one who touched the lost hatchling with kindness." Everyone looked at each other, confused, terrified. But Leo stood up slowly. His hand shook. Zari, hidden in his backpack, peeked out with a soft chirp. The alien turned. His eyes locked on Leo. Then, before the entire school, he knelt, and every other soldier followed. "We have found the flame-bound." All ships bow to the Guardian, the boy no one noticed, had just become the most powerful figure on Earth. Everyone stared at Leo, even the teachers, even the headmaster. 20,000 ships had arrived. Giant alien dragons and warriors stood outside the school, and they all bowed to him. But Leo wasn't thinking about the cameras or the students' shocked faces or even the armored warriors. He was thinking about Zari, still hidden in his backpack. Inside the school's medical bay, Leo sat on a cot while two alien healers checked him. Zari sat beside him now, no longer hiding. The tiny dragon's eyes were glowing brighter, its scales shimmering silver and blue. It no longer looked weak, it looked royal. And when it curled its tail around Leo's leg, the alien guards outside dropped to one knee again. A tall woman entered. The room next, she was not human. Her armor flowed like liquid metal. Her skin was pale gold. Her eyes looked like burning stars. She bowed. "I am Vaelrin, speaker of the sky-clad thrones," she said. "You have touched the air, fed her, saved her." Leo swallowed nervously. "I just gave her a sandwich." Vaelrin smiled gently. That act of kindness awakened a bond that cannot be broken. Leo looked down at Zari. The little dragon stared up at him, blinking slowly. "But I'm just a kid," Leo said. "I don't even have friends." "You do now," Vaelrin said. "The dragons do not bond by blood or power. They bond by heart." Back at school, everything had changed. The bullies who once teased him now stood silent when he passed. The teachers didn't look down on him anymore. The world had watched what happened live. People didn't whisper his name now. They shouted it, "Leo the Flamebound." But Leo didn't care about fame. He cared about Zari. And something was changing in her, fast. She grew larger each day, faster than anyone expected, from the size of a puppy to the size of a small horse in just a week. Her wings stretched wide. Her roar made windows shake, and she was learning. She began to understand speech. She could open doors. She started mimicking Leo's emotions. When he was sad, she nuzzled him. When he was happy, she leapt and danced like fire. But there was something else too. Sometimes she'd stare at the stars and grow quiet, as if remembering something far, far away. One afternoon, Leo found her lying in the schoolyard, her wings curled around herself. "What's wrong?" he asked, sitting beside her. She didn't speak, but her eyes were filled with loneliness. Leo placed a hand on her snout. "You miss your home?" She blinked once. He nodded. "Me too. But maybe we can make a new one." That night, Zari curled around his bed and slept with one eye open. She had once been cold, starving, and weak. Now, she was a symbol of power and flame, and Leo was no longer just a boy, but not everyone was happy about it. Across the galaxy, in a throne made of black stone, a horned figure watched the earth broadcast in silence. His name was Vorthus the Hollow, and he was a dragon lord of an empire that had once ruled Zari's kind. He leaned forward, claws tapping the side of his throne. "So, the lost hatchling has chosen a human. Unacceptable." He stood. "Prepare the hunters. We will take back what belongs to us." Back on Earth, Leo stared at the stars with Zari beside him. He didn't know yet what was coming. He didn't know that warships were already heading toward Earth, but he did know one thing. He would never let anyone hurt her, no matter what. The world had changed, and Leo knew. It would never go back to normal, not when 20,000 alien ships now floated silently above Earth, not when every major news channel called him the Flamebound, not when people he didn't know whispered his name with fear and respect, not when dragons bowed when he walked by. The school had been turned into a secure zone. Alien guards stood on every roof. Their armor shimmered like sunlight on water, and they spoke in a language of clicks and growls. Zari had grown larger. Sleek, fast, her wings now stretched longer than a car. Her scales glowed when she moved, and sparks lit the ground under her feet. She never left Leo's side. One morning, 3 alien high lords arrived in a floating silver throne. They landed on the sports field, where the school usually held soccer games. All the students watched from the windows as Leo and Zari stepped forward. The tallest alien knelt. "We greet you, flame-bound guardian," he said. "The heir has chosen. You are now bonded by soul. Her will is yours, and your safety is the fleet's purpose." Leo blinked. "Wait, what?" Another alien, older, stepped up and held out a glowing crystal. "By this stone, we recognize your claim. By this flame, you become master of the Skyfire bond." Zari stepped forward, touched the stone, and the field erupted with light. Every alien dropped to one knee. Even the dragons in the sky above dipped their wings, and just like that, Leo was no longer just a schoolboy. He was the chosen master of a royal dragon bloodline and the commander of 20,000 ships. Later that night, he sat alone with Zari by the lake outside the school. "I don't understand," he whispered. "I didn't earn this. I just gave you food. I just cared." Zari nudged his arm gently with her snout. Then she did something new. She spoke, not with words, but with thought. "No one ever cared for me, until you. Not even those who built my throne." Leo felt the meaning, the sadness, and something more. Loyalty. She had chosen him, not because of power, but because of kindness. But far above them, in orbit, danger was growing. Inside a stolen warship hidden behind the moon, Vorthus the Hollow watched Leo's rise. He bared his teeth. They give the bond to a boy who has never fought, never bled, never roared. He turned to his general. "Prepare the claim. If the human wants the throne, he must fight for it." The next day, Velryn returned with grave news. "There is a challenge," she told Leo. "A trial. The old code has been invoked." Leo frowned. "Trial? You are now seen as ruler of the Skyfire bond, but not all accept it." He looked at Zari. "Do we have to fight?" "Yes," Velryn said, "but not alone." Zari's eyes glowed brighter. Sparks flickered along her wings. Leo stood slowly. He was still afraid, but not for himself. He looked at Zari and said softly, "Then, we fight, together." And in the skies above Earth, the stars began to move. Not because war had started, but because a nerdy boy and a broken dragon had just become something unstoppable. The trial was not held on Earth. It was held in the void rings of Draxel, a shattered planet surrounded by floating fire rocks, lava rivers in space, and ancient statues of stone dragons locked in orbit. Leo stared out the window of the dropship as they passed through the storm. Lightning flashed between the broken moons. Zari sat beside him, calm, but her wings were tense. She had been here before, but not as the heir. Velryn stood before him, her face hard now, no more smiles. "3 trials await," she said. "You must pass them to keep your bond. Fail, and the dragons will take her from you." Leo looked at Zari, then back at her. "Let them try." The ship landed on a burning stone platform suspended in space. Heat rose around them, but Leo didn't flinch. The first trial began. The Walk of Ash, a narrow path of red-hot ash, stretched before him. It crackled and smoked. No armor, no boots, just skin and will. Leo removed his shoes. Zari growled low, worried, but he placed a hand on her snout and whispered, "If you walked it before me, I can do it now." He stepped forward. The pain was sharp. Each step burned, but he kept moving. He didn't cry. He didn't stop. He walked the entire path, and at the end fell to his knees. The guardians bowed. The roarless duel. The second test was a duel, but no voice could be used. No shouting, no commands, just heart. Leo faced a massive armored dragon rider named Greylock, twice his size, 3 times his strength. Leo had no sword, just instinct. Zari flew above, waiting. Greylock charged. Leo dodged once, twice. He wasn't fast, but he was focused. Greylock's dragon swooped down, And that's when Zari moved. Not because of an order, but because she felt Leo's fear. She struck with fire, not to kill, but to stop. Grellock was thrown off his mount. Leo stood still. Victory. The final trial waited on the top of the broken spire, floating above black space. Valrin didn't explain this one, only said, "You'll know when you face it." Leo. And Zari flew alone to the peak. At the top was a throne of stone. Beside it a mirror, not just any mirror, a mirror that showed the truth. Leo stepped forward and saw himself, but not the way he looked. He saw his doubt, his fear of never being enough, of always being the outsider, the nerd, the weak one. He saw his worst memory, being pushed in a locker, laughed at, forgotten. Zari walked beside him. She looked in the mirror and saw herself, alone in a cage, small and cold. The two of them stood in silence. Then Leo reached out and took her clawed hand. "We were both alone once," he said, "but not anymore." The mirror shattered. The spire lit up with light. And from the stars came the ancient voice of the first flame. "He does not command with fear. He leads with care. Flame and soul now bound. The trial is complete." They descended together. The crowd of dragons and warriors bowed as they returned to the platform, but Vorthos was waiting, and he was not bowing. He stepped forward. "You passed the trial," he growled, "but you still don't deserve the bond." Leo looked at him calmly. "I didn't win by fighting you. I won because she chose me. That's enough." Zari stood behind him, wings flared, and for the first time in dragon history, the throne bent to a boy who refused to become cruel just to be strong. The throne room of the Skyfire Temple was silent. Leo stood at its center, surrounded by fire, real fire, floating in the air like living spirits, each flame glowing in a different color, blue, gold, crimson, silver. They circled him slowly, testing his breath, his heart, his soul. This was the final ceremony, the one that would crown him as flame-bound king of the ancient dragon line. All he had to do was command the fire. "Speak the words," the High Judge said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "Take control, make the fire bend to your will." Zari stood beside Leo, wings folded, her body still, but Leo didn't speak. He stared into the fire, and what he saw made his hands tremble. He saw a vision. Himself, dressed in black robes, Zari now grown into a massive weapon of war flying above. Burning cities, people bowed out of fear. His voice made armies kneel, but his eyes were empty. Leo stepped back. I can't," he said softly. The judges gasped. "Why not?" demanded Valrin. "You've passed every trial. You've earned this." Leo looked down. "I didn't come here to rule dragons," he said. "I came here because a hungry creature needed help. That's how this started." He looked at Zari. "She chose me because I was kind, not because I wanted a crown." The flames floated closer, hotter now. Angry. The judge shouted, "Then you refuse the throne?" Leo shook his head. "No. I just refuse to be like those before me who only saw power. I won't use her. I'll walk beside her." The flames shuddered. Then they cracked and burst apart. Sparks rained down, then vanished. The crown meant for him dropped from its place in the air, hit the ground, and rolled away. A heavy silence followed. The judge turned away in disappointment. Then, "The bond is broken." "No," said a voice behind him. It was Zari. She stepped forward, not growling, not roaring, but speaking, her voice now full and clear in the minds of everyone present. "He did not bend the fire, because fire does not belong to anyone. It chooses, like I did, and I still choose him." Her body flared with light, silver wings spread wide, her scales turned a brilliant gold, and a symbol appeared on her chest, a flame wrapped around a star. All the dragons in the chamber lowered, their heads The room filled with warmth, the kind that heals, not burns, the kind that grows, not destroys. Leo stepped beside her. He didn't wear a crown. But in that moment, every warrior, every elder, every beast, and being in the temple knew who their leader was. Later that night, Violrin approached him on the balcony. "You refused. Power," she said, "but gained something greater." Leo looked up at the sky. "I didn't come here to be a king, I came to protect my friend. And I'll do that with or without a throne." High above them, stars began to shift. Not from ceremony, but from war. Because on the dark edge of the galaxy, Vorthos had not given up. He had heard the voice of Zari. And now, he prepared his own fleet. Earth would be his next target. But this time, Leo wouldn't face it alone. He had Zari. He had the dragons. And he had something Vorthos would never understand. He had earned love. Without asking for it. Earth didn't see the attack coming. Not right away. The skies had been peaceful for weeks. The world had grown used to the dragons, giant beasts flying above cities like silent guardians. People pointed up and smiled. Tourists took photos. Leo had returned to school trying to live a quiet life again, but peace never lasts when envy burns in dark places. The first sign came from the moon. One of Earth's space stations went dark. Then a second. Then all of them. Leo was in class when the emergency alert hit. Zari's head snapped up. She growled, and then the sky screamed. Black ships poured through the clouds. Not like Leo's fleet, sleek and shining. These were jagged, cruel, covered in hooks and glowing red marks. Vorthos had arrived, and he brought war. Explosions struck the sea first, destroying naval bases, then cities. Power grids, towers. Human air defense was useless. Screams filled the air, and Leo stood in the middle of the school courtyard, watching his world burn. Zari landed beside him, her scales lit with fire. Her chest rose and fell like a living furnace. "They've come for me." Leo's fist tightened. "No," he said. "They've come for us." He raised the communicator given to him during the trial of flame. He hadn't used it since he walked away from the crown. Now he pressed the button. "To the Flame Fleet. Earth is under attack. I call you, not as your king, but as your friend. Please help us." For a moment, nothing. Then, the sky filled with fire. 20,000 ships roared through Earth's orbit, shields glowing and weapons charged. Dragons dove like comets, their wings slicing through clouds. Alien warriors joined human soldiers on the ground, pushing back the enemy. But the enemy was many, and Vorthos had not come quietly. In the heart of New Geneva, Leo and Zari fought side by side. Flames tore through enemy lines. Zari's roar cracked glass and bone. Leo guided her, dodging strikes, helping civilians escape. A Vorthos war beast, 20 feet, tall, armored in living metal, charged him. Leo stood still, didn't move. Zari landed between them and unleashed her true fire. White, pure, hotter than stars. The beast melted. Above Earth, Vorthos himself stood on the bridge of his flagship. He watched Leo on the screens, fighting, leading, protecting. He hissed. "He acts like a king but wears no crown." His second-in-command spoke, "And yet the fire follows him." Vorthos growled, "Then let the fire burn, until nothing is left." He activated a weapon aimed at Earth's core. Back on the surface, Leo's communicator lit up. "Massive heat spike," said Valrin's voice. "He's targeting the planet's life systems." Leo looked at Zari. "We end this. Now." They flew together, rising through fire and clouds. Zari moved faster than she ever had, breaking through enemy flak and lasers. Leo held tight, his voice calm. When they reached Vorthos's ship, Leo didn't wait. He leapt off Zari's back and landed hard on the deck, face to face with the one who started it all. Vorthos turned, massive and armored. "You wear no flame, no title. Why did they follow you? Leo stood tall. Because I never asked them to. I earned it, Vorthos roared. They fought, blow for blow, light against shadow, and in the end, Zari crashed through, the hull behind Vorthos grabbing him mid-swing. Together, she and Leo forced him to the edge. Leo looked him in the eyes. You lost the moment you tried to take what was freely given, and with one final strike, they ended him. The black ships fled. The red lights went out. The sky cleared, and Earth, battered and scarred, was safe again. People cheered, not for a king, but for a boy. The one they never noticed, who had saved everyone. The war was over. The skies were quiet. And for the first time in history, dragons flew peacefully above Earth, not as invaders, not as myths, but as allies. And at the center of it all stood a boy once too shy to speak up in class. Leo. He didn't want medals. He didn't care for praise. While leaders gave speeches, Leo sat on the roof of Orion Space Academy with Zari curled beside him, her golden wings folded gently around them both. Everyone's calling you a hero, she said in his mind. Leo chuckled softly. They used to call me invisible. Zari's silver eyes blinked slowly. Not to me. A news drone flew past overhead, broadcasting a live feed. It captured Leo just sitting there in his old uniform, feet swinging off the ledge, a dragon's tail gently swaying beside him. People all over Earth and far beyond watched silently. This wasn't a king, this wasn't a warrior, this was a boy. And he had changed everything. A week later, Leo was offered command of the entire Flame Fleet. He declined. I don't need a fleet, he said. I just need time and space to grow. They didn't understand, but the dragons did. Valrin visited him privately. You refused the throne, she said. Again. Leo smiled. I didn't come looking for one. She nodded. That is why you are worthy. Zari grew even larger with each passing moon. She could now fly from Earth to orbit without rest. Leo sometimes rode with her across the clouds, quiet flights, no crowds, no press, just wind and stars. And every so often Zari would ask, do you miss being ordinary? Leo would laugh. I never was. The school eventually returned to normal. Mostly. The bullies never looked him in the eye again. The teachers called him Mr. Leo with nervous respect, and some students tried to copy his hairstyle. Badly. Leo didn't care. He spent his time helping new dragon human students adjust, training them gently, kindly, like someone had once treated him. At graduation, Leo wore the same uniform, no cape, no crown. But when he stood on the stage, every dragon in orbit roared in salute, and the earth shook with applause. That night, Leo opened the same notebook he used to sketch in when he was invisible to the world. He flipped past old doodles, past the days when he dreamed of having a friend. He wrote one last line at the bottom of the page. I gave a hungry creature half a sandwich. The galaxy gave me everything back. He closed the book and smiled. Far beyond the solar system, in another part of the galaxy, a message spread. The flame bond is alive. The guardian is chosen. Earth is protected. And slowly, enemies began to back away, because they knew Earth had dragons, and dragons had Leo. He wasn't born special. He wasn't built to lead. But when the universe gave him a choice, he chose kindness. And that changed everything.